know, trains have had a huge history all over our country. They've made a big difference in us getting goods and services and traveling from one place to the other. And Prescott's been a big place for trains. Had a train coming right through the middle of town till well, the mid-60s, as I recall, somewhere like that. Fred Vail, great to have you on Charlotte Hall Museum.
Why, thank you for having me, Sandy.
That may not have been a smooth segue, but you're our historian, and right now trains are big. Trains are big at Charlotte Hall Museum.
Trains are big. We opened on December 3rd, actually. We opened a new exhibit that'll run for about a year, presenting what I call the rich and colorful history of Arizona's rails, central Arizona, the rails in central Arizona.
Yeah.
And the exhibit presents that history, starting in the 1880s and carrying it into the 1960s, 70s, and so forth.
Now, you know, we don't have a lot of trains around us now. Are there trains still operating in Arizona? I think there's one that goes up the back way. I used to hear it when I lived on Mount Vernon Street, you know, going up through the Tonto Forest that direction, cutting past us, I guess.
Well, I guess it was in the 1960s that the rail line that ran from the main line in northern Arizona down through Prescott, Wickenburg, and Phoenix through Skull Valley was rerouted when the passenger service to Prescott ended in the 1962, I believe. And it was bypassed Prescott. So there still are freight lines that run from Phoenix and the west up to what was the Atlantic and Pacific, and now is something else. I'm not sure exactly what it is
And
now.
I know the Peavine Trail, which was the railroad coming in, is now they took the ties out and the rails and made it into a hiking trail.
It's a hiking trail,
But we still have our big depot marketplace.
We have
right
the
downtown.
depot, and interesting in our exhibit, there is a representation of the Prescott rail yards, which includes just a wonderful model of the depot, the roundhouse, and some of the other equipment and buildings and so forth that would represent the that era.
Right. Well, I know the city.
That era. It was. And it's 12 by 20, I think, is the size of the of that phase of the exhibit, and it was constructed for us by the Central Arizona Model Railroad Club.
Oh, they're great, very active in the area.
They did a great, and the detail is tremendous, and the train runs, of course, and so forth.
And you, of course, have got a lot of written things and a lot of artifacts and different things like that people can see about the trains and their history in Arizona.
We do. We tell the story of the initial what was the Prescott and Central Arizona Railroad, which came into Prescott from what was then Prescott Junction, and now Seligman, into Prescott in 1887, and it was poorly constructed and didn't last very long, and it was finally pushed out by the Prescott and Phoenix rail line that came in from Ash Fork, and then went on to Phoenix, and ultimately was acquired by the Santa Fe and became the Santa Fe Prescott and Phoenix Railroad. But that's the one that covers most of our history. It actually got to Prescott in 1893 and then on to Phoenix in 1895.
Well, and it kept running, and passengers would go to the depot and get on. They would send their boys to war. They would pick them up, hopefully, after the war. We had celebrities come through. I don't know, maybe even presidents, who knows.
Hence the name of the exhibit, Meeting the 4 o'clock Train, because that was a very popular thing to do in the early years. People went to greet the train to see who was coming and who was going.
It was like the big news of the town.
It was a big social event of the day. There were photographs, some of which have been shown on the screen here, of just lots of people just surrounding the tracks and watching the train come in.
Well, and I know the train went through to the Iron Springs community. It went in the back of the Iron Springs. I forget what they call that exactly, but a lot of people would come up from Phoenix, and their families would would live there for the summer, and they would come up after work on Friday, drop off the train right there, and then head back out.
That's exactly right. There was a stop at the Iron Springs community, and the little station that was there is still in existence today. It's moved to a new location, and they have in that community actually a caboose from the Santa Fe Railroad that they have converted into a plaything for the kids.
Well, and we've got a station out on Iron Springs in Prescott. The other community is out further towards Skull Valley, but you know, the depot there, it's a restaurant, an antique store, and I know there was one of the depots that moved down to Skull Valley, and you know, or
yeah, well, Skull Valley had a depot, but it was apparently taken down, and the depot that is at Skull Valley today came from Cherry.
Oh, okay. But Arizona Railroads, I know the city council wanted to keep that for a tourist attraction through the middle of town, keep the train there, but they figured at that time, and again, it was early 60s, mid 60s, they figured it would be, you know, like more than $1 million to do it. So at that time, that was a heck of a lot of money. So they decided no, took up the rails. Now, unfortunately, we wish we had it, don't we?
We wish we did. Now, there's an interesting story related to that. The first train that came into Prescott was January 1, 1887.
Oh.
100 years later, we have on our grounds a Porter steam engine, which was used at the Congress mine, and it was renovated by some of our folks and the Antique Auto Club. And on January 1, 1987, they cranked it up, ran it out to McDonald's on the rail, had a cup of coffee, and brought it back. And that's the last time it's run.
Well, on the grounds of Charlotte Hall Museum, you have a depot and you have a train station. However, we're out of time, Fred.
We're out of time.
It was fabulous. Go over to the exhibit.
On by.
Charlotte Hall Museum. It'll be there for how long?
It'll be there for about a year.
All right, get in there. Go see it because it's fascinating and wonderful and a marvelous part of our history. Fred Vail, Executive Director, Charlotte Hall Museum, thanks for joining us.